Welcome back to College Football Addiction. Miami drops a stunner to Louisville on Friday night in the ACC. Miami coming off a bye week in this game. Louisville comes into Hard Rock and beats the number 2 team in the country. Things get weird on Friday nights in conference. Typically on the road, though, we just saw what happened with Florida State a few weeks ago, going up to Virginia, a double overtime game, ton of turnovers. We get it. Listen, I'm not here to take a victory lap. I might do that over on X. I'll just kind of drop down what I saw in this game. And I think there is real concern for Miami, maybe not in the rest of the regular season, because I think their schedule sets up well enough. In fact, I didn't even write that down, but I will pull up their schedule. I still don't think it's terrible by any means. Now, they certainly show that they're susceptible. I think Louisville was the biggest challenge they have left. On the road at Pitt in late November. That's probably the second one, but they do have to go to SMU. There are other things on here. I don't think the games against Stanford, NC State, Syracuse, Virginia Tech are that big of a deal, but you showed some issues tonight. Beck certainly reverted. We'll talk about all of it. Listen, I have no room to talk about teams that are not any good or whatever with where Florida State is, but we'll tell you what I thought about this one. Louisville got off to an incredibly hot start, and it was the exact kind of start that you thought Louisville needed to get off to. And from the fake field goal to the trick plays to getting the stop early against Miami to going down and making it a 14-0 game, even at 14-0 with what? There was like 7 or 8 minutes left in the first quarter. You thought, well, that's not going to be enough, right? Miami's going to go out and score plenty against a Louisville defense that had given up a good number of points, right? Miami's just too talented. They'll lean on them. They'll be able to run the ball. And that certainly just wasn't the case tonight. Miami finished with a total of 63 rushing yards. 63 rushing yards. And it's not like Beck was sacked. Beck wasn't sacked once. So there's no sack yardage in there. 63 rushing yards for Miami. And I talked with Gabby about this. If you watched the preview episode, I talked with Gabby about this. I said that Louisville's best bet would be to sell out to stop the run like Florida State did, which Florida State limited the run as well, and make Beck beat you. And he certainly did anything but beat you tonight. He was very bad. There's no doubt about it. He was not good. He had 271 yards passing. I don't know how good you think that is or not, but efficiency-wise, turnover-wise, not good at all. Hot start for Louisville, but credit to Miami. They came down and answered right away. Tony could be as good as we think Bain is, and he is really good. Don't get me wrong. He was kind of a non-factor tonight. But as good as we think Bain is, Tony might be the best player on the team. And he's not just like a freshman All-American. Like, he could be an All-American just in general. And so, that kid is, ultimately, and I'm not trying to disrespect the other weapons they have. I know Daniels made a nice catch. I know they like their running backs, which, again, nobody did anything out of the backfield tonight, except for Tony on that end around that they ended up running. Tony's like, that was their whole offense tonight. And to be truthful, he was most of their offense against Florida State too. He is unreal. The Beck turnovers, the way he reverted tonight, the way that he, he couldn't throw anything but a screen. He was so bad. And I know one of the interceptions was tipped. Actually, 2 of them might have. That last one might have been as well. But Beck was terrible. And listen, he's been so confident all year. He's looked like the 2023 version of himself all year. And I don't know why it changed now. And I know Louisville's got some talent. They're an older unit. We talked about that with Gabby, but they were really just giving, he was seeing ghosts out there. And to me, the biggest picture to me, and the thing that I had the biggest takeaway from was Miami hasn't been punched in the mouth yet. They trailed more in the first quarter of this game than they had trailed the entire season. In fact, the only time they had trailed all season was when Florida State went up 3-0 early in that game. But even then, Florida State got inside the 5 and couldn't punch it in. It felt like Miami only being down 3 there was a win for Miami. If you were in that stadium, I was. It felt like Florida State only getting the 3 points was a win for the Canes. And so it felt like Miami got punched in the mouth, and they had deer in the headlights all night long, offensively and defensively. Beck's turnovers, obviously a massive issue in this. Penalties were a killer for Miami in the first half. Now, Louisville had some big penalties too. The refs were atrocious on both sides. I thought the blindside block was bad. Right after that, I thought the fair catch. I didn't think Tony made a fair catch. I know he kind of signaled like to the middle. I thought that was kind of like, get out of my way. I don't know what the letter of the law rule is there. I'm not going to pretend to be a fair catch expert. I thought both those calls were bad. I thought Bain got away. There were some holds that should have been called on Ruben Bain. I thought the roughing the passer on Beck was terrible. I thought the hit on Moss the next drive was worse than the hit on Beck. Not that I thought either of them were roughing the passers, but I thought the refs were terrible. They called an interception for Miami. That wasn't one. Now, obviously, replay fixed that, but the refs were terrible all night. But I didn't think they impacted the game. I thought Miami deserved to lose this, and Louisville deserved to win. Miami just made too many mistakes to think that they should have won this game. The penalties, though, on Miami, there was a 3rd and 2 that turned into a 3rd and 7, and they had to settle for a field goal there. There was one that backed them up when they had the ball, inside of their own tent. Penalties on Miami were a big deal. I thought killed at least 2 drives. And that was a really big deal. Miami, though, when it mattered the most, they were not very good. Louisville had a drive at the end of the 3rd quarter and the start of the 4th quarter, a huge 3rd and 3 with about 13 and a half minutes to go. You have a chance if you're Miami to force a field goal to keep it as a 1-score game. Cristobal scores his 2nd touchdown. He honestly, he looked like, not to upset the Miami fans, he looked like Malachi Tony on that play, the way he was able to dodge through guys. Cristobal's an absolute stud. He was really, really good. Puts the Cards up 10. Beck throws his 3rd interception. That was saved by that really bad roughing the passer call, but then he throws one on 4th down. The drama of the game was the Louisville turnover, though. They were the team that needed to win the turnover battle, not make the crucial mistake. All of Beck's turnovers were typically down the field. Louisville's sets Miami up in prime scoring position. Tony on the jet sweep. Then on the pass, the 2-pointer, Tony to Daniels, which I thought was a great play call by Dawson to be creative there on the 2-yard line because they weren't able to run the ball worth a damn all night. I thought that was really, really impressive. So you got 7.5 minutes left. Louisville up by 3. This is where you expected Miami to do something. And they just took forever on this drive. Like, I don't know. I think the strategy, which I know we'll get on Mario's clock management, but I think the strategy was to make sure that you didn't leave Louisville with any time left, right? You didn't want a 5-minute drive that gave Louisville 2 minutes to go down and score. That, to me, in a game where you have struggled offensively, like, let's be honest, Miami only scored 13 points had Louisville not fumbled the ball and given it to them on the 11 or 12-yard line. When your offense has struggled all night, I don't think you want to be intentionally slow. I think you want to just go score. The biggest reason why is because you might need both possessions. You might need to try once, move the ball a little bit, pin them deep, and then have them punt it, get a stop and pin it back. They put all their eggs in the basket on that last drive, and they moved so incredibly slow. And I thought that was weird. I also thought, man, you're 5 yards from field goal range. Why are you throwing the ball? The ball, it's down to like 30 seconds left, and you're throwing little out routes. Lean on that offensive line and run the ball. Now, I know they weren't very effective in that, but they didn't have that many attempts. I thought that was pretty poorly managed by Miami. And I don't want to put it on Mario so much. I'm sure that's Dawson calling the plays more so. I'm sure Mario can override being the head coach. But I very much thought that was weird, the way they managed that. Like, got the ball back with 7.5 minutes to go, and they weren't able to move it any faster than it took them 7 minutes to go like 45 yards. That just wasn't good enough. Beck throws his 4th pick. Game's over there. Just obviously not good enough for Miami. And again, you're coming off of a massive win, and you're looking at the rest of your schedule, and you're saying, we're going to be a 10-point favorite in every game the rest of the way out, if not more. You were an 11-point favorite, 11.5-point favorite at kickoff. This thing was at like 14.5 all week. Vegas told you damn near the end of the game this was going to be closer than you thought, the way the line moved in a dramatic way. If my guy Don watches, he's the one that texted me about that. But Vegas told you this was going to be serious, and you're coming off a bye week. You're coming off of multiple emotional wins. Emotional win against Notre Dame. Emotional win against Florida. Emotional win against USF, emotional win against Florida State. And then you have a bye week to not read your own press clippings, not think you're better than you are, not lose focus, and you're playing at home against a team that's got to travel and play on Friday night, and you got punched in the mouth early, and you're your mental ability didn't know, they didn't know how to respond to getting punched in the mouth. Thank God for Miami that the fumble happened, or else they probably lose this thing by 2 scores. Not that it matters, right? You lose by 1 score, 2 scores. What, the game was basically the same. But they had a chance to get run from this thing. And so Louisville just, they did whatever they wanted for most of the night. Miami's defense stepped up in spots. Louisville wasn't able to keep scoring over and over and over again. You were able to get to the half, score still close. You were able to get to the fourth quarter, score still close, until finally, with 13 minutes left, they took the two-score lead. I am pretty shocked that Miami looked as shell-shocked as they did in this game. They just didn't look. I've been saying for weeks I thought they were the best team in the country. And they certainly didn't look like that tonight. They certainly didn't look like they knew how to respond when everything wasn't going their way. Against Florida, they got up big early. Against Notre Dame, they got up big early. Against USF, they got up big early. Against Florida State, they got up big early. And when they got punched in the mouth, they didn't look like they had it within them to know how to respond. And I don't think it should have been shocking that Brom came out there with the trick plays and the gadget plays and the fake field goals. You got to do whatever the heck you can to win on the road against a top 2 team. And so that really shouldn't have shocked Miami. I don't know how well they were prepared. Didn't look like very well tonight. The trenches, where Miami's got a massive advantage, didn't look that much better, if better at all. They looked pretty normal against Louisville's. Louisville was able to run the ball at will. Isaac Brown was really good. They were able to protect Brom enough. And so I don't know what was wrong with the trenches tonight, but they didn't look like they were ready. Beck didn't look like he was ready. He looked terrible. He had 41 rushing yards through 3 quarters. He finished with under 70, right? What did I say, 67? Heatherman and Dawson looked like they got completely out-schemed. Brom had Heatherman in an absolute paper bag all night. Couldn't do anything. And Dawson, I don't know if it's more on Dawson. I don't know if it's more on Beck just reverting or being hurt. I know they said he was grabbing his elbow at one point on the sideline. I got no idea how that offense and defense have looked so good all year, and then they just come out and lay a complete egg against a Louisville team that is very talented, but isn't nearly as talented as Miami. Some of you guys watched and hated the Louisville chat we had with Jeremy Wham, where he was down on Miami in certain spots and talking some smack, but even he predicted Miami would win this thing. As much smack talk as he put forward, he still said Miami would win this. Moss got away with several, talking about Louisville's quarterback. Miami could have had 3 or 4 interceptions in this thing. Some were dropped. Some would have been insanely good acrobatic plays. Let me adjust in the chair. I'm old and my back's starting to hurt now. But Miami was a little unlucky and didn't capitalize on a few plays. I thought they could have had 3 or 4 interceptions. Mario's clock management, again at the end, way too slow. I noted that, thought that was weird. Could have certainly been better. And then Beck was bad all night. And he got bailed out by that CJ Daniels catch on the 3rd and 7. I think 3rd and 12, right? There was a false start. CJ Daniels made an incredible catch to bail him out, but that wasn't a good throw either. And so Miami's left wondering. Listen, I was thinking about doing a video this week about the ACC playoff scenario or the ACC championship scenarios, right? When you look at Miami's schedule, when you look at Georgia Tech's schedule, when you look at Virginia's schedule, how does all that factor in? How does all that play in? Well, now Miami has some climbing to do, to steal a phrase from Norvell. And they're going to need some help because right now, if the ACC championship was to happen, they wouldn't be in it. Georgia Tech, undefeated in the conference. Virginia, undefeated in the conference. Let me take a sip of this. And now Louisville with just 1 loss in the conference, so they have the tiebreaker with Miami. Miami's 4th right now in the ACC. They still have a great chance to win out. They still have a great chance to win the rest of their games, but either way, they're going to need some help. They're going to need 2 of those 3 teams that are ahead of them to stumble, and then they're going to need to count on some tiebreakers. If Georgia Tech loses 1, how's their tiebreaker look against Miami's? If Virginia wins 1, how's their tiebreaker, or loses 1, how's their tiebreaker look? And you need Louisville to drop another one. which they certainly may. They play Clemson, they play some tough games, but I don't know that you can count on any of it. You had the opportunity to win out and be there, and I still think Miami's a playoff team as of today. I would not pick them to lose another game. But you took it all out of your own hands. And if they go 11-1, even if they don't make the ACC championship, they'll still make the playoff. There's no worry about that. But if you can't compete for your own conference, I don't know how seriously we take you in the playoff. I mean, Miami fans would agree with that. I'm not being a hater here. I'm not laughing at your demise. You guys know I keep it pretty real on this channel. You look at the rest of the schedules by everybody else. I'm not going to put them up on the screen just to try and get this out faster. But Georgia Tech has Duke, Syracuse, NC State, BC, and Pitt. Now, they're a slight favorite on the road at Duke tomorrow, so you certainly need to be cheering for Duke to win that game. It'll come down to a tiebreaker between you and Georgia Tech if that's the case. But they ain't losing to Syracuse, NC State, or Boston College. So you need Georgia Tech to lose to Duke or Pitt. Because if not, Georgia Tech's going to stay ahead of you, and they will go to the ACC championship instead of you. What about Virginia? Their schedule is even easier. They have UNC. That's a win. They have Cal. That's a win. They have Wake Forest. That's a win. They have Virginia Tech. That's a win for UVA. And then they do have Duke as well. So you need Duke to double up and beat both those teams for you. And then Louisville. I'm not predicting that Louisville wins out by any means, but they got BC, Virginia Tech, and Cal up next. They're going to go 3-0 in those games unless something crazy happens. And then they got Clemson in Louisville, and then they got SMU. I think they're better than SMU. I think Clemson could be tough for them. All three of those teams could win out. I'm not telling you I think they will. I think the ACC shows you that chaos happens every week. But Miami has gone from a situation where they controlled everything to now they got to hope and pray a little bit. And they got to take care of business. That road trip to SMU doesn't look as much of a sure thing. That game against Pitt in late November doesn't look like as much of a sure thing now. And Miami had everything not locked up, right? Because you got to execute and you got to finish. But it ain't good if you're Miami. Now, all that said, they got more talent than anybody in the ACC. They got more talent than anybody else in the conference. And if they can get a little bit of help, they'll be just fine. But they got to figure out a way to play. Because I don't want to say the script is out on Miami. The tape is out. But, man, it seems like you stop the run and you make Beck beat you, and he may not be able to do it. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. A quick shout out very, very quickly to Sleeper on our way out of here. Go get your free $20 entry if that makes you feel a little bit better. If you're a Canes fan or you're a Louisville fan that's celebrating this thing, CFA will get you a free $20 entry over at Sleeper. Appreciate you guys, as always, for tuning in to College Football Addiction. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments.